Hi everybody, my name is Becca Wilson. I'm the host and founder of Married Sisters Talk Show. This show is created to deal with real topics and issues that women today are facing. Whether you're married, single, or divorced, this show is for every sister. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and every Tuesday at noon on the YouTube channel. If you like our show, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment and let us know how we are doing.
We are sisters, married sisters, living our best lives, being blessed wives with our misters. We are sisters, we are married sisters.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Married Sisters Talk Show. I am your host, Becca Wilson. And today we're going to be talking about the power of a woman. We ended our last session talking about what makes a wife and what makes a woman. But today we're going to be talking about the power of the woman. And it's not where we're thinking about absorbing authority over anyone, but it's that power that we can possess and walk in as a woman. And so today we also have a very special guest with us today. And I also want to welcome back my married sisters, my friends. To my right, I have LaToya Williams. She's been married for 17 years, married to Michael Williams, and she has a heart after God. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
And on my right, also my far right, I have Lady Tyra Thompson. She's been married to Paul Thompson for 26 years, and they also do Married with Benefits. You can catch them on Thursday on Radio Wave. And they also have a ministry called Global Harvest Christian Church. Thank you so much, Tyra, for coming, and welcome.
Thank you.
And on my left, I have my lovely sister, Marsha Shea Davis. She's been married for 5 years. She is the self-publishing author of her book called The Cussing Christian. We are going to be asking her some questions about this book, what brought her to writing this book. And so we are going to start off today asking her about The Cussing Christian. And Sister Marsha, would you like to give us an overview of your book, The Cussing Christian, today?
Absolutely. First, I have to say thank you for having me. It's an honor to be amongst such beautiful, intelligent, and wise women who I look up to and definitely adore. So I just thank you for letting me be here today.
Amen. Welcome.
Thank you. So my book is just my journey of just healing through trauma, specifically trauma from my parents, and so just abuse. And so from the trauma that I endured, I developed a cussing issue very early because as a part of my trauma, my mom always cussed at me, calling me out of my name. And so I consumed so much of that till it became a part of me. But I also had this love for God. So it was a confusing dichotomy. So the woman that I am now, very much a believer, still having, this issue that came from trauma. So in my book, I encourage people who've been abused by parents, by family members, whoever, to share their story. Because in the skin that we're in as Black people, we've been taught to just be silent about the abuse, be silent and protect the people that have abused us, especially if they're parents, especially if they're in our family, so that we can protect them. And so God has me on a mission to just encourage others, especially Black people, to share their story, because the healing begins there. So it's our job to just share whatever we went through. And so for me, I faced a lot of just scrutiny from my family as I began to share, because they thought it was an attack. And it's like, it's not an attack. This is my story. This is what happened to me. I have the permission to say this because there are other brothers and sisters who are committing suicide because they can't tell their story. And even my own cousin recently experienced some of the abuse that I experienced from my family member. And so I was the only one to encourage him recently, about a week ago, to tell him, no, like, they're wrong. If the family shames you, it's wrong to be abused. So you have to do whatever you have to do. And if they have to go to jail because of what they did to you, so be it. So as Black people, we can't continue to normalize people being wrongfully treated, be it your mom, your dad, your aunt, uncle, it doesn't matter. It's time to now share your story, because God didn't die on a cross for you to just be silent about the abuse. And that's the first step to healing, is just sharing your story. So in my book, I just talk about how I overcame so much as a result of what I went through, from addiction, same-sex attraction, just being stuck in so many things as a byproduct of what I experienced, being forced to be silent. So I'm just sharing my story, encouraging other brothers and sisters to share your story. The healing begins there. So that's all I have, sis.
Amen. That is so awesome. I want to digress just a little bit. I apologize. I forgot that I had a viewer question that I wanted to present to the panel. And so I do want to put that question out there. If anyone has a question for the panel, we do not claim to be experts at all. It is our opinion. We do like to tell our story, and it's our experience. And so the viewer question was, she says that she has a best friend, that they've been like sisters. They grew up together. They've done everything together. Her best friend has currently met her husband, and they were still hanging out during this time of their dating and everything. So they were still hanging out. And so in her eyes, they became like family. And so she says she's always had total love and respect for both of them, never said or done anything disrespectful that she knows of. But one day they started hanging out, and she noticed weird vibes coming from her best friend, her sister. And since then, she says that the hangouts have completely stopped. No phone conversations, and she's not sure what to do, how to reconcile this relationship, but she truly misses her friend, and she emailed me the question at marysisters.com if you want to leave a question or have a comment. But that was her question, and I said that we will try to answer it.
Yeah.
So let me, to make sure that I'm getting this, the question in its totality is what, how to handle this, or what should she do about
What
it?
should she do? She put how to reconcile, because she's feeling that something went wrong, but she doesn't know what went wrong. And then she's saying that phone calls has stopped, hangouts has stopped. So it's like a complete shutdown in her eyes. And so she really wants to reconcile. And she ended it as, I truly miss my friends. And so.
Well, you can't fix something unless you know what's broken or what's wrong with it. And, you know, so the first thing would be to just reach out to the other person and ask her, you know, hey, what's going on? I've noticed things have changed. And then hear the person's, you know, what they have to say. If they don't feel like anything has changed, then we've got, you know, maybe something else going on. It can be, but I mean, something like that, saying now that this person is a newlywed, so that brings a lot more to the table than just dealing with two people. Now there's another person involved. So my best experience has been to, first of all, just ask, you know, what's going on? I noticed things have changed. Did I do something? Did I offend you? Is something wrong? That's from my experience. That's the only place I know to start.
And that is a very good starting point. Try to call and see, hey, sister, I'm not feeling like we used to. Just open up the dynamic of the conversation. Just call. And I know she said the phone calls have stopped, so I know, you know, friendship is to be reciprocated, but still make that phone call, truly find out what is going on, what's on her heart. That day particular, she could have been just going through something. I know you say you guys are sisters, but it could have been something more personal between her and her husband that she didn't want to share. You know how sometimes you can have those little arguments on your way to an event, and then you're kind of sitting there side-eyeing each other, and you know how that goes. So, so it's a lot that really could have been going on. So I would definitely, make that phone call.
Yeah.
Make the phone call.
Yeah, I think making the phone call will definitely help. And, the friend could possibly say, as Sister Tyra alluded to, that, I really haven't noticed a change. And that may be because her life is now a little bit busier. Even though they may have started hanging out when they were recently engaged or newly married, things do change as you learn that new relationship. So the friend could be feeling something that is more her looking into something that she doesn't understand yet as a single person, and it may have nothing to do with her. It's just them drawing together and learning what their relationship is going to be. I know when I first got married, that's all I wanted to do was spend my time with my husband, learning what our relationship was going to be. It's not that I didn't want to be with my friends, but this was what my life was going to be. So I really wanted to figure out, we knew each other to a point, but we really can know each other now. Right. So we really were spending that time together. So it may not even have anything to do with you as a friend. But again, reach out, have that heart to heart, and be clean when you reach out. Don't reach out to her with an attitude or, force. Just say, hey, sis, I love you. I miss you. Let's talk about what's going on and go from there.
I feel like that's great perspective to just reach out, but also, what you said about just being mindful that when you get married, like things do change. And so just giving her that space to fully just get used to this new normal and realizing that when she was single, she was able to do different things. And as somebody who wants to have a successful marriage, you shouldn't still show up as a single person when you get married, or that's going to bring trouble into your marriage, so things should change. And so you should just give her that space and them that space to grow and not feel like, I just need you, because it's like he needs her and they need to grow and God needs them to be one because he's doing something. So maybe, just not taking it personal as a personal attack, because I'm sure, I don't know the sister, but I'm sure she's not trying to harm you, but she is trying to create this new relationship. It'll almost be like starting a new job. Like things happen, and you just need that space until you get your, find your rhythm. So that would just be my thought. Just give her that time after you reach out if she doesn't have anything to say, and just as her friend and as her sister, just love her right where she is.
Yeah.
Yes. And pray for her.
Yes.
You never know. Like I said, what is going on? Even though you knew her while she was single, but she is a different person when they become married, but I want to get back, and I pray that helped you. Yes. I want to get back to Sister Marche on the Cussing Christian. How you talked about dying to yourself in one of your poems here. Mm-hmm. What exactly was that process for you? And did you feel as if you were gaining power as a woman, gaining your power back, dying to who you thought your identity was, shaped by the people in your environment? But was that a sense of, I'm gaining my sense of power back in knowing who God has called me to be?
Ooh, I love that you said gaining a sense of power, because even in that time, I couldn't identify what it was. So it kind of felt like God was just saying, like, we're just going to pause that in who you used to be, and I'm going to show you how to be who I called you to be. Mm-hmm. And so it's a continual process of, growing out of old ways of thinking, old ways of being, and allowing God to renew and refine me. But being in that poem, I'm just very realistic about the process. Like, it's not easy. You don't just wake up and become like, oh, praise the Lord. Like, I love you. Like, it's not like that. I feel like people have this idea of a relationship with God, and they make it seem like it's just blissful. But it's an actual process, but you have to make a daily decision to die to old ways of being for the purpose of becoming anew. So in the poem, that's what I'm talking about, the very real, raw process. And I even mentioned, like, looking in the mirror, I don't even recognize myself, yes. And I'm continually changing, like, who am I? And my husband, bless his heart, he's so graceful. He's just like, yeah, babe, like, whoever you are, like, I just love you right where you are. So he gives me that space to grow into who God has called me to be, without requiring me to be the old person. and just continuing to grow. And so I feel like it has to be a continual renewal, because God is always willing to do a new thing. We have to just allow him to do that. So that's what I'm talking about there, just dying to myself.
Yes, that's great. That was awesome. You had said something too, how people think that, once you receive Christ, you're just instantly changed. And there are some that are instantly changed in areas of giving up some addictions. But did you find yourself, like, once you came into Christ, and I think all of us can learn from this, that when you came into Christ, and even though we are working on being that new creation, that new creature, do you feel that even though he has forgiven us, but there were some people that you actually still wronged on your walk to Christ, did you feel that you have to go back and right those relationships?
I felt like, yes, as I felt myself shifting into that new direction, it was definitely a desire in my heart to just reach out, or if those people reached out to me. And I had many conversations where I was just like telling people, I'm so sorry for who I was then. I wasn't aware then of how harmful that I was, because I was raised in a toxic environment. So being toxic, being abusive, that was my normal. So now that I know better, I must do better. But explaining to them that, I didn't know then, but I know now. And if there's a chance to restore the relationship, amazing. But if there's no chance, that's fine. I just need to clear my conscience, because I know now, how I was hurtful to you. And I need to just make sure that I do my part, because I'm sure that I left some hurt there, and I want to acknowledge that hurt. So yeah, definitely having to right those wrongs and being humble enough to admit that I was foolish then, but I know better now.
Right. And that to me is so powerful, because I think a lot of us as Christians, we come into the faith, but we don't go back and right some of the wrongs that we know that we've done, and right those wrongs, and so that they can see you as a totally complete new creature. So it's like, why is it that you're saved and you're living this whole new life, but yet they're still over here hurt, offended, and mad because of something you've done in your past before Christ? And that, to me, that is part of the walk, of the journey, is righting relationships, whether it's with your family or whomever, it comes in your spirit to call up, send a message to. Some people may not even accept your phone calls now. Yeah. But technology, yeah, I can inbox you. For real, I can get to you. I can get to you. Mm-hmm. You're going to read this apology, honey. I'm freeing myself, okay? I've done plenty.
It's been sent.
I've done plenty on Messenger. Yeah. So, okay. No excuses. I'm just saying. So back to the power of a woman. We're going to be talking about Queen Vashti, Queen Esther, and Deborah, and how their lives play into like our lives. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so just jumping right in, when we look at Queen Vashti, I've heard so many negative messages about Queen Vashti, how she was rebellious, and one, I forget the minister's name, of course I wouldn't call it out, but anyway, he was like, don't miss your chance being a diva, because Queen Vashti was a diva in his eyes. And I noticed, like, when men talk about Queen Vashti, they have a whole nother perspective than when we as women talk about Queen Vashti. And so I want to talk about Queen Vashti today. And she's just in the book of Esther, the first chapter, when she's introduced on the scene. Of course, they are talking about King Ahasuerus, her husband. They talk about his wealth. He has 127 provinces. During this time in the Parisian culture, he was preparing for a battle against Greece. And so he spent 180 days, 6 months, showing off his wealth, his splendor, his majesty of his kingdoms. And so he had all the nobles was in town, the princes, military leaders, and he's trying to impress them because they're trying to get a strategy so that he can gain more power, more wealth by conquering Greece during this time. And so at the end of 180 days of all of this vast showing off of his kingdom, which is their custom back then, they had a week where they did a celebration. And in this celebration, it was for all of the people, the nobles, the princes, the commoners, the least to the great. It was for everyone. And in the Parisian culture, they even had a limit on how much food you can eat, how much wine you can drink. But during this celebration, the limits was off. They could drink as much wine as they wanted to. Wow. Okay, so they were full and merry with wine. Okay, but King Esdras, on that last day, of course, he was merry with wine, and he requested the presence of Queen Vashti. So he sent his top eunuchs over to Queen Vashti, where she was inside of the palace having her own feast for the ladies. And he said to the eunuchs, bring Queen Vashti here adorned in her royal crown. She refused. She didn't want to go to the party. She didn't come. So of course that angered King Esdras. And of course she didn't transgress against the law then, but of course they created a law and so made her like transgress, and this immediately she was just booted out. Her life had changed immediately. So when we talking about the power of a woman, how do you guys feel about Queen Vashti? Because as a woman, we look at her like, right on, Queen Vashti. Because we don't know if you wanted her to come just in the crown, so kind of be nude and come in the crown. We can say a lot during that time because it's not written and we don't know. But we do know he was not in his right mind. He was drunk. And so it's like, how do you guys feel about Queen Vashti and the right that she gained her power by saying, no, I'm not going over there?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what she did. And just like you, I've heard countless sermons from the pulpit condemning what Queen Vashti's actions led to. But I believe that she did exactly what Marche was talking about, or the question that you asked Marche with taking her power back. Not only was he there drunk, as you mentioned, all the other men and leaders were there. So she was going to be some trophy like Playboy bunny, essentially parading herself in front of these men, you know, and she decided I value myself more than to leave the party in front of my guest and go parade and dance for you. So although she might have, in a sense, lost what looks like worldly possessions and values, she gained her own self-worth and her own identity in the moment that she said no. So I think more of us need to, consider learning from Vashti, as opposed to thinking that our physical beauty needs to be paraded in front of men, and take our power and know that our intellectual value and our own well-being internally is worth more than what a kingdom can offer.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yes, I would agree totally. My thought was the same thing, basically. It seemed that it was maybe some type of wrong motive for him to be calling her out there and not knowing. I mean, maybe she had, prior experience with him when he had been drinking. Maybe this is something he had done before. And when a person, we all know when you're drinking, you're just not your normal self. So for most people. And so I just, it is being a bit presumptuous, but I was just really assuming he might not have been meaning anything good with calling her out, out like that. And if that was not her normal track record with him, then maybe something was up. And then we have the result of it being him making decisions, long-term decisions, while in a temporary situation. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. The liquor was the wine was going to wear off after a while. and he would be in his right mind. But he started making decisions while he was still, he was inebriated, he was intoxicated and making these decisions. They tell you, even after surgery, when you're under anesthesia, don't make any legal, don't make any decisions and determinations. Don't even drive because you're impaired. And so his personal judgment and wisdom was impaired. And so I felt like the way it was, put, that his ego was out there, and he was going to be Mr. Macho, and now he's having he motions, he's having menopause, and he's like, what you mean, woman? You ain't coming out when I call you. So what we gonna do to the queen? Now he's asking other people. It was all about the show and how he looked in front of other people, and I think even though that now brought some other things. Bring some other things to the plot for Esther and others, still he was having to now keep up the appearance of what he started in a drunken state. And that's got to be a heartbreaking thing, a heart-wrenching thing. Now here he is having to save face, but having to do things that he really I don't think he wanted to do.
But he asked.
Yes.
He asked and inquired of
Yes.
the people that actually make the laws and help him make
Yes.
the laws. He was like, well, what should I do? Well, what should we do? Because they were like, you're going to have to get her because all the other wives might try to raise up on us. So you need to correct her because they might raise up on us and disrespect us in our own house.
Right. So it wasn't that they cared about her or him. They were thinking of themselves. And he was too out of it to recognize what he normally might have seen, their ploys, and you just try and play me because you think about yourself. And but he couldn't think like that because here he is, he's all impaired, and now he's like, yeah, you're right. So that's like a life lesson that I think we should all follow is you don't need to ask other people what you should do in your marriage, especially not when you are in an impaired state. Whether that be emotionally or whether you've, been sipping something in your cup or whatever it might have been, you have to be careful the advice that you get from other people because they're not in your relationship. So,
hi again, this is Becca Wilson. Hope you have enjoyed our show today. Don't forget to like us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and tune in live here every Tuesday, 12 noon, for a new episode of Married Sisters. Thank you and have a great day, everybody.